Hi everyone, Tom Wolf here. In this video I'm going to be showing you how I created this guitar style lead synth in Omnisphere. A mod wheel. Okay, so that was the patch not buried deep enough from my soundbank Fractal. Now Fractal was released a couple of years ago and it contains sounds that are sort of distorted, dark, industrial patches. So I'm going to show you how I created this. So over here, I've already taken apart the patch. And the first thing to note is that because this is a lead synth, I've switched on the solo button. I only want one note playing at a time. And I've also switched on the legato button so that we're not getting any re-triggering of the envelopes when we're playing. So first I'll show you the raw sounds, okay? So here on layer A, let's just mute layer B for a minute. So here on layer A, we're using the DSP engine and we're using the MS-20 triangle. So that sounds like this on its own. Okay, so quite a basic triangle wave. And then on layer B, we're using the TB303 saw, which sounds like this. So on layer A, we're using this triangle sound, which is, quite a soft sound, but it's got a little bit more depth to it. And then we've got this saw sound, which is creating that kind of buzzy top. So obviously at the moment, it sounds absolutely nothing like our patch. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to switch on the unison on layer A. Okay, so you can hear that working. Let's just open the unison engine up. We've got the detune all the way to the bottom, so we're not making it all that fat. And we've also got the depth right at the bottom as well. So this is literally just creating some spread. It's not doubling up the wave too much. It's just creating a little bit of character for it. So let's switch on our filter. We'll go out of here. So the filter we've got here, it's one that has been modified. We've got in filter 1, we've got low pass filter UVI 2, and then we've got UVI 1 over here as well. So let's switch that on. Okay, so we've got our cutoff quite low, our resonance about a quarter, and we've got a tiny little bit of envelope there, which if we look at our filter envelope, it's just adding a little bit of attack to the sound when we first play it. So it's not doing an awful lot, but it's just giving it a bit more character. So the reason why I've used these two filters is just to shape the character of this particular sound. I could have done it with one filter, but let's play the difference between the two. So without the UVI 1, and with, it just creates a little bit more fatness in that particular layer, and it's just a bit smoother, and I quite like the character of it. So that's why I did that. So let's look at our modulation. You can see from these little blue lines here that we've modulated the cutoff and the resonance. So let's switch those on. So here in our mod matrix, all the ones that are affecting layer A, we've got our LFO1, which is going to our cutoff, affecting our cutoff, and we've got LFO2, which is controlling our resonance. So let's unmute those. So as you can see on LFO1, we've got this random wave. So it's just going to be randomly modulating the cutoff. And if I show modulation here, it makes it slightly easier to see. So it is in unipolar. So it's only going to be opening the cutoff. And we've got it in legato. So it's not going to re-trigger every time we hit a key. And then we've also got it synced, and it's synced to 1 bar. So as you can see, we've also got our depth turned off, and we'll come to that in a second. And then controlling our resonance is LFO2, which is set to a triangle wave. And that is also unipolar and synced, and that is synced to a quarter beat. So that is just going to be increasing the resonance on the sound and sweeping it slightly. So again, our depth is set to off, and that is because our depth is being controlled by mod envelope 1. So let's unmute that. That is the depth for both LFO1 and LFO2, by the way. So let's have a look at our mod envelope. So our mod envelope, all this is doing basically is just stopping the cutoff change and the resonance from happening when we hit the sound initially, because I wanted to keep the attack on the sound as it was every single time. Otherwise, using the random LFO, that would change where the cutoff is every time I trigger a new note. So let's just play that and see what that's doing. So you can hear that cutoff working and the resonance working as well. But every time I hit a new note, it sounds pretty much the same. Whereas if we didn't have this envelope triggering and then sustaining, we'd have our cutoff just slightly different every time, which we didn't want. So the next thing to show you for this layer is the effects. So let's come over here and let's click on layer A. So on layer A, we've got stomp box and we've got flame. So let's play the sound again. And let's switch on the stomp box. So that's making it sound a little bit more guitar-like. And we've got the drive set quite high, the tone about in the middle, and we've got the model set to Ibanez Tube Screamer. We've then got the flame distortion, which the mix is set to 100%. It's set to the loud driver, and we've got a little bit of gain on pre and post, and then it's filtered quite a bit as well. So that sounds like this. So without. So that's adding some kind of lower edge to it while removing the top a little bit. And what's interesting is that our kind of randomized cutoff and our resonance sweep is making this sound a lot more interesting now that we've got the distortion units on, because it is just modulating that distortion and making it sound a little bit more unpredictable and a little bit more natural. Okay, so that's our layer A. So let's have a look at layer B. So over here, we've got our TB303 saw. Again, this sounds like this. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do with that is we're going to switch the filter on. Now, the filter on this layer is an exact clone of the one on layer A. So we've got our UVI2 and our UVI1. We've got the cutoff and resonance set to pretty much the same. And then we've got our envelope as well, which is just slightly open to give it a little bit of initial attack. So let's play that. Okay, so that's giving us quite a nice kind of resonant character there. This is also being modulated, as you can see by the little blue lines. So let's go back over to our mod matrix. And we've got LFO1 controlling the cutoff, just like we did in layer A. And we've got LFO2 controlling the resonance, again, just like layer A. So getting that kind of random sweeping there. So then we've got our effects. So if we come over here, so this stomp box, although this is a copy of what's on layer A, I didn't actually use this. I just kind of left it there because it gives people the option to add it in and change the character of the sound slightly if they like. Let's just show you what that does. So it adds quite a bit of grit to the sound, but as I say, the final patch didn't actually use that. So let's switch on the flame. It's just adding a little bit of gritty character to it. And again, the settings for that are the same as the one for layer A. And then we've also got our toxic on this layer. So we'll switch that on. That's set to about 50%. We've got the crush set to 0.57, reduce set to 0.44, no wave shaping happening. If we click over here, you can see that we've got the filter set to low pass and we've got the cutoff being modulated. So let's show the modulation on that. Okay, so let's unmute that. That's being modulated by envelope 2, which as you can see is quite a basic sort of decay, very quick decay there. What that's going to do is it's going to open the filter very slightly when we trigger a new note, and then that cutoff is going to close and it's going to filter out some of that toxic smasher. So that gives us that little kind of attacky bit there. Okay, so let's now play the two sounds together. So we're starting to get there, and we'll compare that to our original sound. Okay, and our original sound sounded like this. Oh, that's got the mod wheel on. Okay, so we're starting to get there in the character, but there's still quite a lot that we need to add. So as you could probably hear when I compared those two sounds, the final sound has a lot more kind of ambience and reverb to it. So a lot of that is going to be coming from our auxiliary effects. So let's have a look at these. So let's turn the auxiliary return up a bit. I think that was about there. So firstly, we've got our metal zone. So let's hear it without. So that's adding a lot of that kind of distorted bite to it. We've then got our BPM delay, and that is set to very low mix, so just under 20% there. We'll switch that on. There we go, we get that nice delay at the end of it. And then we've got our proverb as well, and we'll switch that on. Again, the mix is set very low to 15. We've got the time very high there, density high, and the diffusion about 3/4, and that sounds like this. So we've now got that big ambient tail on the sound, which is great for a lead because we want this lead to kind of soar. And when we're going to be playing it in tracks and using it in our pieces, we want it to really kind of float above everything else that's in there. So, or at least that's how I pictured this sound being used. So that ambience really helps to bring that out. So the final thing to show you is the tremolo that was on the mod wheel. So that's very simple. You can see here we've not switched on our imager yet. So we've got an imager on the auxiliary, and then we've got an imager on the common effects as well. And the imager, I've said in previous videos, you know, I'm not actually using it in a lot of these patches for the panning or for any kind of stereo effect. I'm merely using it as a gain control, as a kind of utility to be able to control that gain without affecting other things. So let's have a look at where that's rooted. So with our modulation, that is being controlled by LFO3. And if we come over here, we can see that we've got a sine wave. We've got it set to unipolar. We've got it synced, and it's synced to 16ths. At the moment, the depth is at 0. We'll come to that. And at the moment, it's muted. So let's just unmute that. You can also see that it is inverted as well. So when the LFO is going, it's going to be turning the volume down, which is how we're going to get that tremolo effect. And it's the same story over here on our auxiliary. So we'll have a look at that modulation, LFO3, and you can see that's the exact same story. And we'll unmute that. So the last thing is we need to control that depth. So we've got the LFO3 depth being controlled by a mod wheel. So let's just unmute that. So there's our tremolo. So that's how I created the patch Not Buried Deep Enough. Thank you for watching. Hope you found that useful. If you'd like to check out the set Fractal and to hear that patch along with 99 other patches, you can find a link in the description, and that will take you to my website where you can check it out. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button before you leave, as I'm going to be making a lot more of these tutorials, and I'm going to be sharing at least one video a week. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.